In the 16th century, when William Shakespeare would have been celebrating Easter, there were a lot of rules about what you could or couldn't eat in the 40 days leading up to Easter. It was the time period known as Lent. And along with red meats, some of the foods that you couldn't eat were called white meats, and that included dairy, cheese, and eggs. Now, most backyard farms of the middling sort, like Shakespeare's family would have been, would have provided their own eggs through having coops somewhat like this one. Now, mine's very modern, of course. Shakespeare's 16th century version would have looked differently, but the chickens would have been pretty similar and they definitely would have laid eggs. Now, the interesting thing about that is if you look at my chickens, I have 11 chickens here, and these are the eggs that they've laid just today. If you weren't eating the eggs that they're laying for 40 days, you would end up with way more eggs than what you and your family could eat. Which is why in Shakespeare's lifetime, in order to preserve the eggs their chickens were laying until they could eat them again at Easter time, they would often boil the eggs as a way to preserve them. By the time Easter came around, everybody was so excited to finally be able to be eating all of these eggs that their chickens had laid for the 40 days during Lent that they made all kinds of things out of the eggs, not just dishes that you could eat, but they also decorated them. They would take the eggs and boil them in anything that could turn them a color, including grass to make the eggs green. Or they would decorate them by etching patterns into the outside of the egg, and they would use this to decorate their tables, to decorate their homes, and they would also carry them in a basket, which is the idea of an Easter basket that we still use today. They would load their Easter baskets up with extra eggs, and they would give some to their church parish, which was required. You had to donate something to the parish at Easter. It could be money, but if you didn't have money, you could take eggs, which most people had a surplus of by the time Easter rolled around. Which is why this Easter, if you are decorating eggs or carrying them around in a basket, you are carrying on a tradition that Shakespeare would have done over 400 years ago. If you would like to learn more about some activities you can do using colors and dyeing things, I have another episode we did about turning red ink blue, and you can try that out on this link that's somewhere on the page right now.